All right, this is project 1 for software development for real-time embedded systems, and it is the spring of 2020. This first project is to implement a Morse code display using the Arduino, and this will take a user type string, and then it will display that string in Morse code using an LED. I'm just going to run through the requirements really quickly. I haven't added anything significant. The LED will blink following the International Morse Code standards, which I've listed here. These are all based upon a time unit, and I'm going to specify my time unit as 100 milliseconds. The user will not be able to display any characters that aren't listed here. The user will enter a string, and once they press enter, the Arduino will display it in Morse code, and then it'll prompt them again to enter another string, and this will continue on in a loop. I'm imposing a limit that the string the user enters cannot be more than 100 characters, and that's arbitrary, but it'll alert them if they go beyond that. The program will only exit if the user inputs a sentinel character, and while the project description specified to use something like Control-Z, I found that using Arduino Sketch and the serial monitor there, this doesn't register Control-Z, so I'm just letting my sentinel character be the exclamation point, and I found that that worked better, and then users can run this on whatever kind of software they would like. And so this is going to implement all that in a round-robin design schedule. It'll just do one task and then move to the next, and it's fairly straightforward. As far as hardware, I'm using a Mega 2650 Arduino. You just need one LED. I have a 1000 ohm resistor, a little breadboard, and then of course a laptop and a USB cable. My setup is configured just like this. I got these images both from the Lady Ada tutorials that were linked through the class resources. We're going to use pin 13 because that's already configured with the LED on the board, and basically all that needs to happen is the resistor connects to pin 13, the positive end of the LED will connect to the resistor, and the negative end to ground, and then when pin 13 is high, the LED will turn on, and when it is low, it will turn off. So real straightforward, and it should be pretty easy to implement that portion. I like this little circuit diagram. It gives you just a very clean idea of how simple the hardware part of this really is. So now we'll move to software. I just want to point out automatikaddison.com, which is a resource that I used. This is where I got the idea to do the letters and the numbers in this way, just using their dots and dashes in these arrays. And so I'll index into those later in my code. And this user also used the exclamation point as the sentinel, which I thought was clever, as the Control-Z was not working as well as I would have liked. So now we're looking at my code here. You can see where I'm setting this time unit to be 100. We're using pin 13, and here this is the letter and number arrays. So this is going to be a pretty simple user input. We're just going to set up a serial connection, and I got all the information on how to do that from this serial input basics tutorial just on the Arduino website, so that was very useful. I have opened the serial monitor that comes with Arduino Sketch here, and it'll prompt the user for a phrase to transmit in Morse code. The user will type something such as "Hello World." It'll tell the user that they're transmitting. Later I'll show you how this blinks Morse code on the Arduino, and then while that's working, I will run you through the rest of the code. Oh, and you see that this pops up again, asking the user to enter another string. So in a loop, we're just going to call this run program, and if run program exits, this means that we saw the sentinel character, so then we're going to turn off the serial input, and that's what's going to exit our program for us. Run program is just waiting for the done flag to be marked true, and that will happen in this receive function, which is where we're receiving user input. So what this is doing is, while serial is available, it's just reading in everything the user says. It's putting it into this received chars buffer, and this part here is saying if there's more than 100 characters, we're just going to overwrite the last character that the user inputs repeatedly, but it's going to tell them every time that their strings exceeded the maximum limit, so hopefully that won't be an issue. Once the user presses enter, we're just going to add a string terminator and move on. Oh, and right here, this is where if we see that sentinel character, we're going to change our flag to true, and that's what we'll pass to the previous function. Then after we call our receiving characters, we're just going to move forward to transmitting Morse, and we're going to use that received characters buffer that we created earlier. So now we're transmitting Morse. The first thing to do is we're going to loop through our buffer until we reach our string terminating character. And we're going to look for a character. We're going to assume that someone doesn't start with a space, and we'll come back to why we're going to only delay 4 time units for a space in a second. We're going to check if our character is alphabetic or if it's numeric. If it's alphabetic and it's a lowercase letter, then we'll get its index in the alphabet by subtracting a lowercase a. If it's an uppercase letter, we'll get its index in the alphabet by subtracting an uppercase a. Once we know its index in the alphabet, we're just going to go into the letters array. We're going to get the Morse code string for that letter, and we're going to pass that to play letter. And the digit, we already know the index. We'll get it from the numbers array, and then we'll pass it to play letter as well, even though it's technically not a letter. If it's an unknown character, we'll just let the user know that that happens, although I don't foresee that coming up very often. And then we're going to move forward to the next letter. In between words, we'll just have a 1 second delay before it asks the user to transmit another word, just to keep things clean. Play letter is pretty simple. It's going to look for a dot. If it receives a dot, it's going to turn this pin 13 high, which means the LED will turn on. We're going to delay just 1 unit because a dot is only 1 unit long, and then it's going to turn the light off. If it's not a dot, then it must be a dash, so that's going to turn the pin high. This is going to delay for 3 units, and then it's going to turn it off. And so in between each dot or dash, we want just 1 time unit delay, so that's what's happening here. And then we're going to move forward to the next character. In between letters, we want a 3 second or 3 unit delay. We've already waited this 1 unit, so this is only going to be 2 times the time unit. To get 3, it's the duration of a dash. And this is why for the space up here, if we get a space, we're supposed to wait 7 time units, but we've already just waited 3 at the end of that, so we'll only wait 4 here. And that is really all it takes. We upload this sketch to the Arduino, and then we can run it and watch the Morse code happen. I'm going to switch views so you can see that happening live. All right, so we're going to take a look at the setup I have here. This is my Arduino. It's the Mega 2650. I've got my breadboard, and you can see here my resistor, which is connected to my LED, and that resistor is connected to pin 13, and then the negative end of the LED is connected to ground. So very simple and straightforward setup. And then obviously we've got this USB cable to the laptop, and now we're back at the code we were just looking at originally. We already typed hello world once, but we'll just type it again so you can see what's happening on the Arduino. I'm going to turn this light off so you can see the blinking better, and I'm going to press enter now. And so what's happening is it's blinking out hello world in Morse code. And when it's finished with that, then it's going to prompt the user to type something else again. And that'll be in just a moment. There we go. Okay, so just as proof that this is actually blinking out dots and dashes like we would want, I'm going to do 5 E's followed by 5 T's. An E is just a dot and a T is just a dash. So we're going to expect to see 5 fast blinks followed by 5 slow blinks. And that should prove that we're doing Morse code as intended. So I'm going to press enter now. And that's what we were expecting to see. And so now we're going to go back up to the monitor, and now that I'm done entering things, I'm going to give it my sentinel character. It's an exclamation point, and it tells us that it's exiting, and now anything else that I type is not fed to the Arduino, nor is any blinking happening as I type and press enter. The connection has been severed. So we have done what we were trying to do. Thank you very much.